see. All right. So apparently it seems that um, we are now live. We're live on Facebook. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this super impromptu webinar about Sprint and T-Mobile. It, happy Tuesday. As I said, I was like, I wasn't surprised because a lot of people don't realize that T-Mobile and Sprint actually they were in litigation beginning in December. So I'm not surprised that the order came down today. I'm slightly surprised that the order came down today, but I'm not surprised that the order came down today based on the fact that, like I said, based on the fact that T-Mobile and Sprint were in litigation and the trial started, I believe, in December, so they should have been done already. So like I said, it's just one of those things. I really am excited. And please let me know if you guys have any questions as I roll through what's going on with Sprint and T-Mobile. I don't know if you saw, when I sent the email to my email list today, it was up 75%, but it closed today up 76, up 77%. Not what I'm talking about, Sprint. So Sprint's up 77%. So there is my thing today. So I have to really just share that with you. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody is on, and if they have any questions. So I have my Facebook feed up just so I can see questions. So let us get started. So big thing. So everybody's like, the federal judge approved the T-Mobile and Sprint deal to go through, right? Everybody, that's what's being said. So the real question that a lot of people have been having is, huh? Like, I thought that, like a lot of people said, I thought that deal was dead a long time ago. I thought they were doing that under the Obama administration. I thought that was dead. I didn't even know there were negotiations. How did we get here? There was a lot of confusion about what was going on because the timeline has been so long. I forgot about it, honestly. I really, honest to goodness, forgot about it. So, and the funny thing is that because I don't want to say I'm always so tuned in, but I'm usually like clued into what's going on. I wrote about this whole kerfuffle in May 2018. So, I mean, and I was telling people on my email list today, I was like, listen, investing is very much the long game. Like sometimes you just gotta be, I tell people all the time, you sometimes gotta sit and be patient and wait. You gotta wait. So that's what, we've been doing. So here's the skinny. And I really, you see, Monica said that she did. She remembered I said something. So when I sent that link, people were like, oh, wait, is that 2018 that she was talking about this? She was like, people were like, yeah, I forgot why I said, why I followed the Ivy Investor until I remembered that she just be coming with the sweetness. So like I said, let's get started on exactly what happened, what's going on. So 2018, actually April 2018, April 29, 2018, so almost 2 years, Sprint and T-Mobile entered into a business combination, or what we consider to be a merger agreement. So what was going to happen is that Sprint and T-Mobile were going to combine. And just to give you an idea of kind of like, think about it as a marriage. So like Sprint and T-Mobile are coming together. So everybody's bringing their baggage to the party. Like it would be, as much as we think of a marriage as being this wonderful, beautiful thing, and it is, everybody's bringing their own stuff with them. And Sprint and T-Mobile are not immune to that stuff. So first, you had two major players in the industry. I mean, like I always say, if you guys know me and you've been following me, I always talk about like you got to know the players and the playettes. So Deutsche Telekom is a major shareholder, a major majority shareholder of T-Mobile. They own about 3.5% of T-Mobile. And then the other 37 or whatever percent is owned by the public. So that's T-Mobile. And then you have Sprint, which is owned 84% or so by SoftBank, which is like a huge Japanese telecommunications. Like, I mean, they do more than telecommunications. They're just a really large Japanese conglomerate. SoftBank owns about 84%, and then the rest of it is publicly held. So that's kind of the two people that are getting, the two entities, I should say, I'm sorry. But under Citizens United, corporations are people. So Jackie probably caught that like, oh goodness. That's a legal reference to a Supreme Court case about political funding. It's called Citizens United. And basically the holding was, or more or less, is that corporations are people. We're not getting into that today. That's just not today's party. But anyway, so you have, T-Mobile and you have Sprint. Now, they have been trying to get together since 2011, which I am always here for the shenanigans. I was like, you guys are trying to get this together since 2011? Like, really? Y'all didn't give up yet? Like, okay, you guys are really trying to do this, huh? So I'm very tickled because, I mean, if you have been following T-Mobile or Sprint for any period of time before like the merger was announced, like they were throwing shots on social media, like ads, like they were going back and forth. And then it's like, so y'all getting together? It's kind of like, think of it this way. I talk about businesses and relationships very like, because they're very much connected. And they're just connected. I mean, people, like, they're run by people, and people are crazy and people do crazy things. Duh. So I think that, so I'm like looking at it, it's like, have you ever like seen two people that were like fighting like cats and dogs all the time? They had nothing good to say about each other. And then all of a sudden you're like, are they together? I'm so confused. That's kind of like the Sprint T-Mobile thing. It's like y'all were beefing on social media, pop, 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 like all kinds of shots. And now all of a sudden you guys are deciding to get into a merger and merge your businesses. And initially when the conversation was started in 2011, the initial conversation was that Sprint was kind of in the more powerful position. But have the tables turned. T-Mobile is in the better position now. So basically T-Mobile, here are the terms of the deal. And a lot of people have been asking, like, Courtney, should I run out and go buy the Sprint stock or T-Mobile stock? I don't like, if there's a whole bunch of confusion, unless I see a clear path to do something, I just do nothing. I'm going to say that again. If there's a whole bunch of confusion, unless there's like a clear path to do something, I do nothing. So I've been hanging out with Sprint for a while. So I was like, y'all going to get it together at some point. And then won't he do it? Up 75% in the day. Hey, I'm here for it. Anyway, so here's the terms of the deal. T-Mobile, like I said, is going to take the lead. And so basically this is the terms of the 2018 deal. So these are probably going to be changed because one of the biggest things is because this whole deal took longer than 2 years, the problem is that, circumstances have changed. So they're going to want to go back to the table. They had like kind of what we call like a finalization or a closing date that was back in 2019. So we blew through that date. So now we have to come back to the table to kind of decide on what's going to happen. It may be these terms, may not be these terms. We're just going to have to watch. And I have a little juicy nugget in a second. I'll tell you about that in a second. So the old terms. So it was about 9.75 shares would get you 1 share of T-Mobile stock, or it was something silly like a 0.01 share of Sprint would get you, I don't know. It was some kind of random thing, but either way, Sprint is not taking the lead anymore. T-Mobile is. So just think, like, for almost every 10 shares you get of Sprint, you get 1 share of T-Mobile. Just think of that as the deal. Okay. And so here's the real problem of why the tables have turned with Sprint. Sprint it has a huge debt obligation. In 2018, their debt obligation was $75 billion. I'm going to say that again, $75 billion. So everybody was like, yeah, I can't believe, T-Mobile was going to buy Sprint for $26.5 billion. And I was like, I thought it was a cheap deal, but I thought it was a cheap deal before I knew about their debt obligation. So just think about it generally, is that you're looking to buy a house, like you're looking to buy a property, you're looking to buy something, and then all of a sudden you have this random lien that comes out of nowhere. So you have a house that's worth, $100,000, and then you have a lien that's like $20,000. You're like, well, that reduces the value of the property $80,000 because I'm gonna have to pay this lien off. So again, it changes the contours of the deal. So when I found that, I was like, ooh. So a lot of people are like, oh, T-Mobile is going to buy Sprint and it's all stock deal. So all stock deal, just to clarify, is that T-Mobile is going to, for every Sprint share or basically every 10 Sprint shares, their investors, and it's the old deal, are going to get one share of T-Mobile. Now that may change based on kind of, like I said, it's taken them 2 years to get this party started. So now that we've gotten here, now we're going to try to see what's going on. So here's the thing, what took so long? Anytime you have a merger of what we call a business combination, anytime like a big companies, like if me and my friend decide to get together and like merge our companies, we're special. I think I'm important, but nobody cares. But if two major companies, multinational companies, huge companies like a T-Mobile, like a Sprint, decide to get together, there's a lot of government agencies that are going to weigh in, more specifically the the FCC, and also I think the FTC actually had to weigh in also. And then you have the DOJ in terms of the Department of Justice, in terms of antitrust regulations or antitrust provisions. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers Ma Bell. Like, I don't even, was it Bell Telephone? It was like Bell Telephone everything. And I don't know if everybody remembers that. And I was like a small kid because I was, rotary, and I put my finger in and would have to go around. It was a lot. But I share that with you is that was kind of part of the antitrust provisions. They're like, hey, they're like, oh, no, you guys are basically become so big that consumers don't have like a choice. They're stuck with these prices. They really just don't have any wiggle room. We're going to break you up. So that was I think that was the biggest in history kind of breakup of a company, which was Bell Telephone. But since then, the Department of Justice, and they've always been relatively active. I think the antitrust provisions came through like around the Great Depression or like out of the 1930s, out of that financial reform. So, and I also, just as a tidbit, if you notice that every time we have some kind of financial turnaround or turn upside down or some type of financial collapse, there's a lot of like new regulations are birthed out of it. Some are good, some are bad. And a lot of people kind of get so upset that, oh my gosh. And it's like, listen, you got to learn the rules of the game and just play it better than anybody else. So you learn the new game, the new rules, and you freak them. That's it. Real simple. But a lot of people get so anxious about it that they just don't get a chance to take advantage of the opportunity. So, let's talk about it. So what is the new company going to look like? So first, T-Mobile is probably pretty much going to be the second largest cell phone company in the United States. Okay. So right now it's going from, 3 and 4, which is T-Mobile and Sprint, and then it's going to go to number 2. Okay. Now T-Mobile, the company itself is going to be owned. This is the old deal. Don't know what the new deal is, but T-Mobile is going to be owned, I think 42% by Deutsche Telekom, which was the big owner of T-Mobile, then 27% of SoftBank, and then 31% of the company is going to be owned by the public. So that's kind of the new company. Okay. So I share that with you to say, a lot of people are like, okay, so what does that really mean for us? So before I get into what that means for investors, what that means for consumers, I want to really talk about how we got to this whole trial thing. So like I said, anytime there's a huge combination, merger, acquisition, whatever, the federal government gets involved. So I believe in July, the Department of Justice, or the DOJ, their antitrust division, signed off on the deal. And like I told you, I had a juicy nugget for you. So one of the conditions of the deal was, guess what, y'all? They have to sell a portion of their cellular service to Dish Network. I'm going to say it again. As a portion of this deal going through, T-Mobile and Sprint have to sell a portion of their cellular network to Dish Network. Does anybody think this is strange? Because I was like, wait, Dish, where'd you come from? Where on earth did you come from, Dish? I'm so confused. I was like, what? I was like, But see, but that's what I like to tell people when everybody gets so concerned about like the big players in the big players in the space. They're like, oh, Sprint, oh, T-Mobile, should I buy them? And I'm like, this, do you even have cell phone service? So, right. So I'm like, well, how are they going to, kind of, it seems like they're in a position to win just out of nowhere. So again, I like to share that with people because like when I started reading the terms of the deal and kind of all these things that were going on, I was like, oh, you don't say. So here's the thing. So I looked at so when I was kind of just preparing for this conversation, because it was like really off the cuff. If you know me, I was working late tonight. So I was like, I had to run home and I was like, all right, let me catch up to see what's going on. Cause I wasn't really paying attention to any of the filings. And I was like, I got to really be careful. But I wanted to, so what I did initially is I said, well, what do these companies close at today? So here's the thing. T-Mobile closed at $94. They were up 11%. And then Sprint closed at $8.52 and they were up 77%. That makes me happy. And Dish Network, and I don't even know if anybody was really paying attention to Dish Network. They're up 7%. Now, again, like I said, I don't really know if anybody was paying Dish Network any attention at all. But I was like, Dish? So again, everybody got so concerned about Sprint and so concerned about T-Mobile is that I always tell people, pay attention to like the unintended or unimportant beneficiaries of a deal, always pay attention that way, because that's usually where you'll find the opportunities. A lot of people, I'm not telling you to buy Sprint or T-Mobile or Dish or nothing. This is not investment advice. I want to be very clear. We're having a conversation, but I share this with you all to say this. I share this with you to tell you, it's like, again, just pay attention, read, become like an educated investor. You'll pick up little nuggets along the way that can actually make you a lot of money. Now, I'm not telling you what the nuggets are because I don't know yet. I'm just as nosy as you guys. I mean, I've been doing some research on some other stuff, which I'll talk about later in the conversation. But this whole Dish Network thing. I was like, I'm gonna look into that. Okay. So anyway, so the whole thing is that the reason why the federal courts got involved is that there was 13 states and DC sued in court, and they said they sued to actually stop the merger, and they said, hey, you're going to hurt if this merger collapses all of the available companies, so it hurts competition. Basically, because I mean, when you have like a huge company, like competition really doesn't get a chance to thrive. You just have such a big player, they just basically crush everything that's in the site. So, the attorney generals, the states were like, hey, this is not good for our people. So, I mean, and that's what the AGs are supposed to do. And I really like to be very clear is that a lot of people get frustrated. They're like, why did the AG get involved? Well, the attorney general for states are supposed to basically protect their consumers, protect their citizens. So they're going to jump in in litigation like this, because again, they think it hurts competition, that they think it's going to lend to higher prices that their citizens are going to pay. Yeah, they're going to jump in. And so one of the terms that I read is that they have vowed not to increase prices for 3 years. And I'm like, this seems odd. This seems strange. Because I'm like, well, I mean, what does that really mean, guys? Like, you're not going to increase prices for 3 years? Like, does that mean in the 4th year? I've been with Sprint since, I think, 1999. So does that mean that like in the 4th year, I'm going to get like a massive increase in my bill? Like, is that what's going to happen to kind of make up for the 3 years you said you were going to charge people? Like, I'm really kind of concerned. So I wanted to give you that background of like how we got to the trial. So there was a trial. It was in New York. The New York federal courts get a lot of action. So I share that with you. And what I loved, Monica said, reading is fundamental, because it is. You find all the nuggets. The devil's in the details, like seriously. But one of the things that I saw is that they were in court. I believe they did it for maybe about a month it might have been a month, 6 months, weeks or something. But if you know anything about courts, we wait forever for orders. Ever. Sometimes like I have a friend who's been waiting for an order for like 6 months. So like I'm really kind of surprised that the order came out as quickly as it did. But like I said, they're kind of on a time crunch because they blew through all of their agreed upon dates because they felt like this would go through. But again, when I talked about in 2018, Sprint and T-Mobile did not fare well in the market when it was announced because everybody was like, y'all did this before and it didn't work out well. We don't know what's going to happen. And they just weren't excited. So the market show was like, meh, we don't think this is a good idea. So I want to kind of talk about what the real deal is here. Because a lot of people don't realize this combo is a play for 5G. And everybody's like, what? So 5G technology is pretty much, it's a new network that supports so many types of devices. Basically, like I think we are going to be taken over by like machines because the level of intelligence that these machines are going to have and going to run off through 5G, it's going to be in nothing that we've ever seen before. It's going to really enable kind of like autonomous cars, like really. And there's a lot of different aspects of it that are really going to be, phenomenal when they get off the ground, but they need this infrastructure. And one of the big things that I've seen and that I've noticed, and this is something that I brought up in 2018, is that neither one of these companies could actually take on the 5G kind of infrastructure by itself. They just couldn't do it. I mean, Sprint's carrying around a whole bunch of debt. And even as a person, if you're carrying around a whole bunch of debt, there's not a lot that you can do. So I really share that with people to say, hey, like this is something that is really trying to change the game. And a couple of things that I saw in 2018 kind of put on my radar is that Sprint is really doing poorly. They have terrible financial health. And I never realized that until I looked at the terms of the deal and I was like, oof, y'all got problems. So that's a big deal. But then also, like I said, neither one of these companies can generate or actually do the 5G network like they need to by themselves. So they kind of have to combine their forces. I see Crystal's on there, like Voltron, or Transformers, but Voltron, Crystal gets that reference. So, but I share that with you to say, okay, they're combining to actually really move this 5G thing up. And that's why I was like, and I've been like hinting at it. If you've been following me at all, if you actually caught me in Chicago, I talked about it. So this is the surprise that I have for everyone. I am hosting a 5G class next Thursday. And for those of you who signed up for the webinar, because because T-Mobile is buying Sprint for $26 billion. The class is normally $49. For y'all who signed up, it's going to be $26. Because, because I love you guys, but I think it's really important for us to have the conversation. And I really think it's like this is the next level. This is the next wave. We are getting there. And a lot of people, I tell people you need to invest in what you know, you need to invest in what you understand. Now, there's a lot of aspects of 5G that are like going to blow your mind. When we talk about it, you're like, whoo, a lot of stuff is going to blow your mind. But then on top of that is that we use cell phones every day. Every single day I'm on my cell phone. I mean, if you have an Apple phone, they tell you how much screen time you had the week before. And I was like, whoo, I spent my whole day on the phone now. So between email, between text messages, between Facebook, between Instagram, we're always on our phones. So the question is like, how do we, take this stuff to the next level? And Arlea shares that she was like, she's concerned because Sprint's a big enough bully. I mean, they're kind of bullyish. I agree with you. They do the most. But, I'm concerned about them generally because I'm like, why? You guys are super expensive. You have a lot of debt. Like, what's going on with y'all? What are you doing? What are you doing? But hopefully, we can make this work. But again, I think the bigger thing is that we become, educated in things like 5G. So we were able to take things to the next level. So, I mean, if anybody, I'm open for questions because I kind of really shared a lot. Like I said, the class is next Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's and I'll put it in the comments for you guys. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. It is going to be 8 p.m. Central Standard. The class is $49 for those of you who are on the email list. For y'all who are on my email list, it is $26 because I love you. And I will get you guys the link for that. Does anybody have any questions? I'm just trying to just look at Facebook. Monica's excited. I'm excited too, Monica. Looking at the comments just to make sure that we're having the conversation, because I know like it hit, everybody was like, whoa, like what's really going on? It was very much like a surprise because nobody knew they were in litigation. Nobody knew they were in litigation. Like it kind of like blew past everyone because it actually happened like kind of around the holidays. So we're all going like, it's the most wonderful time of the year. And then here these attorneys are going, duking it out in New York. So, it just wasn't even on our so Monica asked a really good question. She said, what's the benefit of owning Sprint with much debt other than becoming the second largest company? I really don't know. I mean, I think what happens is we notice that the markets are emotional. So everybody got excited today. And they were just everybody was like purchasing Sprint. So I wouldn't personally at this point, I can't tell you what to do. And this is not investment advice. I'm not going out to buy more Sprint. I really want to see how the contours of the deal change. Like I said, even the numbers I was telling you, the 10 shares of Sprint, roundabout 10 shares for every 10 shares of Sprint, you get 1 share of T-Mobile. But that was the deal of 2 years ago. How is it going to change? I don't know. So like I said, if there's a whole bunch of confusion and uncertainty and I don't see a clear path, I just kind of stay out the water. And then a lot of, so Arleia asked, how does she think that AT&T is going to be affected? Well, I don't know. I mean, AT&T, I think everybody's trying to make a big play for 5G. That's kind of the move that everybody is looking at. They're like, okay, everybody's trying. It's kind of like, who's going to be the fastest to 5G? The first question is, what is 5G? Who's going to take advantage of it? How does it going to work? And who has the best opportunity to take advantage of it? So I think AT&T pretty much had, the 4G LTE on lock, to me at least, because I was like, okay, I see you guys. I really felt like they had it together. That being said, the question is, who's up next? And I, I'm not really sure who's up next, to be honest. I don't know. We think it could be this whole Sprint T-Mobile conglomerate, or I should say the new T-Mobile. But it doesn't necessarily have to be. So that's a thing too. So there's a lot of different things that, I think we're looking at for us to really take advantage of it. But again, you just got to get in front of it and become very educated. And that's what the whole idea of us having the conversation about the 5G investing. And then I'm giving my people, so like I said, it's $26. It's going to be $26 for people on my email list, and it's $49 for those who aren't. So people are like, what's the benefit of being on the email list? This right here, discounts. So Deandra said, Sprint's is the first to get to 5G. Everybody's in 5G. So I want to be very clear. Everybody's in 5G. All the players are in 5G, but the question is who's able to maximize 5G and actually kind of deploy it on the level that it needs to be deployed on, if that makes sense. Because I think that's where a lot of people that's where everybody's kind of wondering about, like, hey, are we going to be able to, deploy on a level that makes the most sense? And the question is, so Arleia asked another good question. She said they're diversifying. They're all over the place. They've purchased, I believe, what is it, HBO, or they purchased a couple of different companies. And it's like, okay, so they're kind of trying to really make their play. Again, it's like, who does it the best? Like, we watch the show like Who Wore It Best. It's like who does it, who's going to do it the best? That's the question. And I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm a little nervous. Like I said, I'm actually very nervous because it just makes things like, okay, like how is this going to affect us? How is it going to affect how it's going to affect everything. I think that's my concern. So, like I said, I mean, I didn't want to hold you guys too long. I definitely wanted to let you know like what we have going on, and I'm going to share the class in the Facebook group, and so people can see it. Like you guys, like I said, you guys are on the introduction to 5G investing. That's next Thursday, February 20th. Super excited to have you. It's $49. The replay, so it'll be live and there'll be a replay and Teachable for you guys to catch up or whatever you would like from it. Like I said, you have the oh, thanks, Monica. She's so sweet. She's like never too long with me. There's just so much information to be had. And like I said, 5G is new. And you know how, so let me put it back in perspective. Y'all know how I did cannabis, right? I mean, we went all the way in cannabis, and we're going to go all the way in 5G because again, I just think it's so important for us to be educated about these things as they come up. We use our cell phones every single day. It's just so much a part of our lives. So we have to kind of take it to the next level and be able to kind of be on the cutting edge of these things and figure out basically the plays